for the first time in 2025, Saturday can't come around quick enough because I'm genuinely excited about what we're going to see.
A young, inexperienced manager, an experienced assistant to help him along. We've seen it. We've seen it at this club. We've seen it with Nathan Jones and Paul Hart, and that turned out pretty good.
He's coached the likes of Jude Bellingham, Harry Kane, etc., and and he's also just recently coached at Walsall. He's done the top end of the scale and he's done the lower end of the scale, and he's been everywhere in between. I did feel that there would be a bit of scrutiny, certainly from myself, on how Jack in particular performed at his first press conference, and I was sold within 10 minutes, to be quite honest with you. What we've got from Jack is, I know where we are, I know where we're going, I know where I think we can go, we can get promoted. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think we could get promoted.
They should be thinking this about most managers. I've got to try and impress the new guy, but now I've got to try and impress Jack Wilshere. I watched him growing up. He played for England. He played with all these great players.
I want to see Luton going forward. I don't want to see Luton stopping all the time. If I wanted to watch football buffering, I'd go and watch one of them illegal streams.
I'm going to wake up with a spring in my step on Saturday morning, and I'm going to virtually skip down to Kenilworth Road. It's going to be glorious.
The Jack Wilshere era in charge of the Hatters begins at Kenilworth Road on Saturday when Mansfield Town are the visitors. And alongside me to preview what will hopefully be a great day for the town is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, you ready for a new era to begin?
It's a little bit exciting, isn't it?
Do you know what? It actually is, yeah. And we'll go through exactly why right after this intro. Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in the Football Content Awards. Once again, the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned prior to the intro, we're looking ahead to the first game in charge of Jack Wilshere and indeed Chris Powell, and we'll touch more on the latter shortly. And I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe alongside me to do that. Stay tuned till the end of this podcast, though, because we have a competition for you guys and we want you all to get involved. So make sure you're around at the end of the podcast. Let's turn it to football first of all, though, Jimbo. Let's worry about the game in a moment, because last time you and I were here, we thought Steve Bold was going to be Jack Wilshere's assistant. We were wrong. He's not Jack Wilshere's assistant. It is Chris Powell. And I was fine with Steve Bold, as I said in the instant reaction, but there's a lot more levels to the Powell coaching credentials than there is of the Bold one, isn't there?
I'm really impressed by this. I put on Twitter, I think that it could be a really shrewd bit of business. When I saw him standing there on Monday, I thought it was good. And then when I asked him a question and he's answered, I thought I could listen to you all day. And then when I had a really good think about it after I went home, and his credentials, he's been all up and down the leagues as a player and the manager. His first managerial job was at Charlton. He got then promoted out of this division. But the thing that really gives me lots of cause for optimism, he was part of that Gareth Southgate England set up, and we can all talk about how they got to finals and stuff, but I think the biggest success of Gareth Southgate's reign, and therefore of his coaching staff, so Chris Powell as well, is he changed the feel around England. He changed the atmosphere around England, and you'd have to think that Chris Powell was a big part of that as well. And that's where we are. It's been bad for a long time. People are upset. There are still some people who are quite sceptical. I think that's fine. It's right to be, because you've had 18 months, 2 years of things going wrong. But if you need someone to galvanise this fan base, galvanise this club, start to turn it around, you've got a young, exciting manager, unproven, of course, if you're one of those people. I'm there with you on that point. He's got a lot to prove, but he's got experience in Chris Powell. something that brings people together, and almost like a glue. I think that, and I'm really excited about that prospect of what that can mean for this football club, because I've missed it. I've missed that unity. I've missed the altogether nature of this club, because you said it a lot. When it is together, this club can go places, and it hasn't felt like that for a while. Now, it may take a little while for that to come back, but I think that the signs and the early signs are that is an absolutely fantastic bit of business.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Rome wasn't built in a day. We are starting, as if you heard the James Shea interview last week, we are starting from a very, 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 very low place. But you know what? You've got to start somewhere. And yeah, what an appointment that is, Chris Powell. I mean, you're right, Jimbo. I mean, this is a guy who's just coached 18 months ago in the European Championship final, you know. Apart from the World Cup, it doesn't get any bigger than that, does it? He's coached the likes of Jude Bellingham, you know, Harry Kane, etc., etc. And, you know, and he's also just recently coached at Walsall. He's done the top end of the scale and he's done the lower end of the scale, and he's been everywhere in between. So,
and more importantly, I think that everyone who talks about Chris Powell talks about him in such fantastic, glowing terms. And I'd never really considered it before, because he's never been near Luton, you know, might have played and stuff. I know him from, you know, playing for England and watching England, and that's it. But when people talk about him, even Jack Wilshere had a really nice thing to say about him, but everybody is like that, and he's got such huge respect in the game. And I think that if he talks, people are going to listen. I certainly did when he answered my questions. I thought, oh, I could ask you many more of these. So hopefully he gets put in front of a few cameras along the way, because it's perfect. And we've seen this before: a young, inexperienced manager, an experienced assistant to help him along. We've seen it. We've seen it at this club. We've seen it with Nathan Jones and Paul Hart, and that turned out pretty good. So, not to say that they're going to be those same people, but just that mix, and that mix of experience of the new and the experienced. I think it's a fantastic bit of business.
yeah, I do too. I said it in the instant reaction. It's got Jones and Hart vibes, and I strongly believe that. I said last Sunday when we sort of spoke about the Wilshere signing for the first time that I'm not someone who takes notice of press conferences. They no disrespect to you, but
Cheers, mate.
They're usually bland, and you usually get the same answers out of a press conference because no one wants to give anything away. But I did feel that there would be a bit of scrutiny, certainly from myself, on how Jack in particular performed at his first press conference. And so I was sold within 10 minutes, to be quite honest with you. You know, I've come here to get promoted. I've not come here to be a League One manager. I want to manage in the Championship. All these kinds of things. We've got to use the stadium and get the crowd behind us, and literally everything that we didn't get from that first Matt Bloomfield press conference. And there's no disrespect to Matt Bloomfield. I said it on Sunday. He's a good guy. He'll go on somewhere and he'll be a perfectly good coach and he'll have a good career in the game. But you have to give this fan base something to grab onto straight away. And all we got from Matt was, oh, it might take a bit of time for me to get my style across. No, mate, that's not what we need. What we've got from Jack is, you know, I know where we are. I know where we're going. I know where I think we can go. We can get promoted. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think we could get promoted. And then the club put out that 4-minute video of Jack's first day where he's got all of the players in the sort of canteen. And the first thing he says to them is, you know, I need some good players. And I look in this room and I've got effing good players. And immediately shoulders rose up and I'm like, I like the confidence of this guy. He's got a confidence about him. He might not have done the job before, but he's been around so many situations, whether it be the under-18s, whether it be Norwich, whether it be whatever it is, he's playing stuff as well, that he's got a confidence about him that makes me think that he thinks he can do the job. Whereas with Matt, I always thought he hoped he could do the job.
Yeah, I don't want to rewrite history on Matt. I think he came into a very difficult situation. I don't think you could sit there in the situation they were when he came in and say, we're going to go and get promoted and all that stuff. And it was a million miles away from that. So, you know, horses for courses on that. But we're at a bit of a low ebb in the context of this season, but we're in a better position, really, that we're not fearing the drop at, you know, and I think that things can improve. But yeah, when he comes in and says those confident things is one thing. And a sense from like fans on social media, but conversations I've had in the days since, that there is a bit more of a lift, a bit more of an optimism about it.
Well,
Healthy, I think, with a bit of the dose of, well, we're not sure because no, he's untried and untested, and that's true, and that's what we spoke about when we knew that he was pretty much nailed on for the job. There is that element of it, but what if that's what it's doing to the fan base, then that's what it will do to the players as well. And if you stick Jack Wilshere in front of those players, they're going to think, well, they should be thinking this about most managers. I've got to try and impress the new guy, but now I've got to try and impress Jack Wilshere. I watched him growing up. He played for England. He played with all these great players. And that's coupled with the appointment of Chris Powell and the credentials that he's got. The two of them combined, it's going to make these players sit up. And that point that you made about, I've got effing good players, they need to hear that, because I think we've said since beginning of the season, we're pretty happy with the business. Some people aren't. I understand the evidence of it. You're probably right at this moment, but on paper, good players there who just are not performing to anywhere near the levels that they should be performing to. And just that little change of perspective could really, kickstart something here.
Indeed, yeah. Players looked like they were enjoying training in that in the clips that they showed in that video. And I mean, why wouldn't you? You're being coached by one of the best players of his generation and one of the best coaches of his generation. You mentioned it before we did the intro, Jimbo. It is exciting. For the first time in 2025, Saturday can't come around quick enough, because I'm genuinely excited about what we're going to see. I'm not expecting peak Barcelona on Saturday. We're not going to get it. We're just not. And I'll throw out a stat later that suggests that sometimes we don't always hit the ground running under a new manager. But from the last two performances, which are as terrible pound for pound as I've ever seen from Luton players, I'm really excited of the immediate improvement that is going to be made. I refuse to believe it's going to be as bad as those last two. It can't be anyway. But we'll worry about sort of structure and what he can bring way down the line. It might need January. We don't know. We don't know exactly what he's got, what he's going to deliver and things like that. But I'd be surprised if I'm not seeing some 10-yard passes completed on Saturday. For example, I'd be surprised if I'm not seeing 100% fight, effort, commitment. And to be honest, having seen him in that press conference, I kind of get the impression that on the dugout, we're going to see a manager who's invested rather than one who's had his hands in his pockets with his head down on the floor like we've had our manager for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And we'll get behind that. And my word, we'll get behind it. It's very, very close to a sellout. I can't wait.
No, I can't as well. And I'm there with you. I'm a lot more confident than when we did the last podcast, where I still have that healthy dose of, well, prove me right or prove me wrong, whichever way you want to, however your glass is full or empty. But having spoken to him, seen him and Chris, and the lift that it seems to have given everyone in the sort of 48, 78, 72 hours since the appointment, I am more now into the optimistic side. I'm with you. I think that, let's not, run away with ourselves and think we're just going to be amazing from the start. But I stand by what I said in the last one. I just want more fun. I want fun to return. And that can be small little elements. And, I've covered the club for such a long time, and it could be a thunderous tackle from somewhere. It could be just a bit more zip about the place, and that will get people going. And that's what we need. Need a spark. And then we can see where that goes. It's going to be development, but they've already acknowledged this, that they're going to have to come in. Can't be a 6-week bedding in process. They've got to win a game, then they've got a next game and the next game. So they know this, and that's the rigors of elite football that they both come from anyway. So I'm really buoyed by everything that they've said in terms of that. And yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to wake up with a spring in my step on Saturday morning, and I'm going to virtually skip down to Kenilworth Road. It's going to be glorious.
It is. It's so good that we're at home in his first game. Listen, Northampton away will be great in a couple of weeks' time. It's already sold out in the away end, and kind of local enough for the atmosphere to be fantastic. But we got to give him the Kenilworth Road experience, haven't we? I mean, he's had the Kenilworth Road experience as a coach of Norwich last season, but I mean, you know, that was a bit of a drab occasion, wasn't it? Because it was a terrible game of football and Norwich won it with a sort of long-range effort and things like that. Of course, he knows all about Luton. He's got a connection to Luton. He was here when he was 8, left when he was 9. He was back training. I don't know if that was public knowledge prior to Monday, but he was back training under Nathan Jones. Wanted to play a part in getting us promoted to the Premier League. His mind said yes, his body said no, and convinced him to go into coaching. He's got an affinity with this football club. Immediately, that's got people behind him. Yes, of course, you're right to be sceptical. What can he deliver? What can't he deliver? And it could fall flat on its face. But so could an appointment of Richie Wellens. So could an appointment of Graham Alexander or any of the others. If we could tell the future, you and I would have brought the football club and would be running the damn thing because we'd have so much money behind us. But that's not the case. But all you can do is look at the attitudes and the way they go about things in their everyday thing and what we've got. And we've been given enough sort of ammunition with regards to the press conference, the videos that have gone out, the interviews that they've done with the club and things like that, to suggest that they're not coming at this from an unrealistic angle. They're perfectly realistic, which I think is important. You know, he's not coming here thinking he's taking over the best team in League One. In time, he might have the best team in League One, but he knows where we are. I presume, I don't know for certain, but I presume that when he was in the frame for the job and getting all the interviews and everything else, that he'd have looked at some of the matches that we've played, and he still wants the job. So that's a positive, because I think if I watched the last two, I'd have scarpered long since. But, you know, he came through a rigorous interview process that was kind of explained to you guys on Monday, which we kind of got the feeling we didn't have with Matt. Matt was very much, we had to rush that through because we were in the middle of a January transfer window and things like that. So he's convinced enough people. He's got a fantastic number 2 on side. And they should be good yin and yang, shouldn't they? I mean, Wilshere, one of the best midfielders we've got, knows exactly how to play through the thirds. Chris Powell, one of the better defenders that English football saw in his time, should be able to organise a back four. Put the two together, and in time, it should be okay. I will come on to the Mansfield game in a moment, but the fixtures are levelling out a little bit right now, aren't they? You had that Stockport game's on the horizon, and that looks a bit difficult. And ironically, we're going to bump into Robbie Savage in the next couple of weeks as well after the cup draw and things like that. But he's got a winnable home game, a potentially winnable away game, and 2 cup games to, if not hit the ground running, really show that we can improve over these next few weeks.
Yeah, and that's what we want to see. We want to see improvement. I mean, it's a pretty low bar from where we were in the Cambridge game. I'll give you that. But we want, you know, I think the improvement.
I'd fancy us to get improvement out of that game. It was terrible.
I think you get a sense of these things, don't you? And if you've been around football long enough, and you get a sense from the way he spoke to those players in that clip and the way they were looking at him. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean everything. It doesn't always translate.
And who was in that clip? Because they panned around, and it's literally people that we've not seen as fan base before. Hakeem Adofin. I know, you know, there's no disrespect to them. They were injured, and that's fine. Izzy Jones was there. Elijah Adebayo was there. Jacob Brown. All these people that we've not had any access to in terms of seeing that they're around. Suddenly, the first Monday morning that Wilshere's there, and I'm not suggesting that they're all fit for Saturday or anything like that, but they're all there. They want to be part of what he's first got to say.
Yeah, you see what it means to those players. They would have, you know, he's only 33, obviously, but
don't say that.
No, compared to them, he's older. To me, he's much younger, and I still going to have to contend with that for the rest of my life. That managers are going to consistently be younger than me.
I think that's why I wanted an experienced manager. The last 2 were younger than me, and I'm still not used to it. So I wanted experience to get back to that kind of normality. Funnily enough, 2 of his squad are actually older than him, Nicky Wells and James Shea. Someone told me it was Cal Naismith. I'm glad I saw that for myself. James Shea, who he knows anyway, because he played alongside James Shea in the Arsenal youth setup. So, and obviously, as you referenced last time we were in the podcast, he's also coached Rue Walters, so he'll know all about him. There's a lot of, and Jordan Clark and 1 or 2 others. I think he said Cal Naismith were here when he trained last time that he was here. It's not like he's got to get to know everyone. He knows some of the people that are here, and I'm sure he'll cross paths with others whilst at Norwich last season anyway. And then, of course, we get to his contact list, don't we? I mean, Town need a right back. He's just coached the best right back we've had in the last decade. You know, get that phone out, Jack, and bring him home.
To get too carried away, but I mean, some people could get carried away with that, and that's fair enough because his contact book will be very good. Not least a very good young crop of Arsenal players that have come through, and some of them have made the first team at the Emirates. So
one of which played for England on Tuesday night.
Yeah, indeed, and his experience at Norwich as well. They've always got a decent academy that comes through. So, so all of that is really positive. The fact that he knows some of the players because he did that little spell of training. And by the way, what did it say about Nathan Jones's training methods? That I know that his body wasn't, where he wanted it to be, Jack Wilshere, because he had the injury problems. But to say that he couldn't keep up with the intensity of Nathan Jones training, I mean, you and I have seen it in action, and if you can get back to something like that, then that would be fantastic because that team, his team, just ran people off the park. They couldn't cope with the fitness and the power of those players, and that's what we want to see because everything that we've in the recent memory seen is far too passive, and you can't argue against that when you're losing to a Cambridge B-side in a Football League trophy match. So all of that's a good thing. I don't necessarily always hold that you need to have a connection with a club. I think there's plenty of evidence out there to show that it doesn't always come off. You could say like Frank Lampard and Chelsea, for instance. But in this instance, I think it's an extra galvanising effect on this club. It's where he started. It does feel like full circle. He's a local lad, I believe, still lives in Hitchin. So, and his friends, some of his friends are Luton fans who will know all about them. You can't not know about Luton from the journey of the 10 years from non-league to Premier League anyway. So I think in that sense that is a nice little addition to what he will bring. Even if he didn't have that connection, I'd still be quite excited.
Yeah, me too. I mean, if the training's 50% as intense as the Nathan Jones ones was, I mean, I've seen a Nathan Jones training session and I got knackered watching it, let alone being involved in it. So that probably says more about me than it does his training session. But yeah, front-footed football, I'm all for it, Jimbo. And let's bring it around to Saturday then. Saturday's game, Mansfield at home. So it's a good opponent. We've got a little bit of not a history with them, but obviously, they were familiar foes in the non-league times, so kind of a reminder of where we're at. Of course, if you're watching this of a certain vintage, then you'll know all about Graham French's goal against Mansfield back in the 70s. I wasn't around then, Jimbo. I'm old, but I'm not quite that old. But my old man goes on about this religiously. It's one of those goals where he started off taking on 5 players from about the halfway line and scoring, and now this run started from Dunstable. He's gone past about 25 players and he's scoring. It's one of those that gathers with the ages, but of course anyone who saw that goal, you'll remember it. That was against Mansfield. I think my first memory was 5-3 when Kinnear was manager. We had him at home somewhere around Easter and he was winding them up, wasn't he, Kinnear? And he wound everyone up. Plymouth and Mansfield fans were getting wound up by him and it was a good atmosphere, and I think we had some trophy battles with them and things like that. It's a good fixture. Of course, they've got their own high-profile manager in Nigel Clough in the opposite dugout, and he'll have learnt plenty from his old man. And generally, they play nice football and things like that. But yeah, as I've said already, I'm just excited. I just want Saturday 3:00 to come around now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if we're looking at the squad we've got, I think, and I think he believes it as well, Jack Wilshere, that it's a good enough squad to be more than competing. They should be trying to beat teams like Mansfield. So his job is to try and get them to that point because the confidence is so low, the results have been so bad. That's his immediate task, I think, to try and instill some of that into it. But even if he can turn it up a few percentages, then I think that they're going to be perfectly competitive against Mansfield. And I think really the reason I'm a big factor of the reason I'm really so excited is that I think that he can do that in the short time he's got because of who he is. That's the initial bounce, isn't it? Or whether it leads to a win, again is kind of debatable historically, I think. But we're talking a bounce over a phase of games, and I'd say 5 or 6. Well, let's give him 8 because Bloomfield didn't win in 8, and he's got in that time impressed with his ability. Then initially, I think it will be, well, Jack Wilshere's our manager. Let's put on a show, sort of thing. Which sometimes I go, well, why can't you do that for everybody? But that's human nature, I guess, isn't it? So we'll see.
Yeah, sometimes the voice that's talking to you just goes stale and in one ear out the other. I mean, I've been in jobs where my manager's just droned on and on and on, and by the end of it, you're like, bad enough for you, mate. Do you know what I mean? And it's, either you move on or he moves on. And in this situation, he's moved on. You're right with regards to Luton managers. They don't have good recent records in their first game in charge. If you include interims, you have to go right the way back to Andy Orford in 2015 for the last Luton manager who's won his first game in charge. It's not all doom and gloom. We've only lost 2 of those 8, 6 draws in that time. And you know what? A draw probably ain't terrible on Saturday. When you bear in mind, don't get me wrong, I know everyone wants us to beat Mansfield at home. I get it. But from those last 2 performances, if it's a draw on the front foot, I don't think I'd be too discouraged. I really wouldn't. I mean, we are going to get better. And whoever the manager was, we're going to get better beyond Saturday because, it's a whirlwind, isn't it? It's also a whirlwind that he has had 3 of his likely starting 11, Chris Makosso, George Saville, Nicky Wells, on international duty. So won't have had them for the full week. Marvellous Nakamba also on international duty. I don't know if he's going to be part of his starting 11. We don't know if he's going to be part of his starting 11. Jack's first pre-match press conference is on Friday, so we're all guessing at this point. I certainly hope that he just picks 4 defenders. Of course I do. So we are going to improve when he's got everyone to work with, first and foremost. We don't know how many of those people that were at the training ground on Monday who've been injured are fit. Because obviously there's a great deal of difference sitting in the canteen, listening to the bloke and then going out on the training ground.
So the last time that I spoke to Bloomfield in a pre-match setting where you'd asked these questions was his last game in charge. And because we had the international break, I asked him, can we look ahead to this game, the Mansfield game, and who might be back of the players that are available? And a lot of those players that you mentioned that are in that video are this phrase on the grass. The closest was Ali Al-Hamadi at that point, although he wasn't sure he'd be able to make it for this game. But then you see him in the video with all the others and you're thinking, well, maybe. So maybe we'll get to see those. But if 5, 6 of those players come back, changes the complexion of what he can pick from, and they, good players as well. So that will help. So it'd be very interesting to see what the players he's got available, who he favours, the formation he goes for. I don't expect to see a back 3 from what he did at Norwich, from I assume what he did at Arsenal with the players that have currently come through. Miles Lewis-Skelly, for instance, as a fullback into the first team squad.
And the teams he played in all played a back 4, didn't they? So it's going to be something that's sort of natural to him. He did quote Cal Naismith a few times in all the interviews that he's done, so you're assuming that he's going to remain as his captain. So we can that doesn't necessarily mean he starts the game. We've had many a club captain who hasn't necessarily started the game. Towards the end, Sonny Bradley was still club captain, never started the game. And of course, in the last 18 months or so, of course, Tom Lockyer has been club captain. We'll cover Tom another time. Once he gets another club and things like that, we'll do Tom. This is all about Jack right now, isn't it? And
although he's training with Bristol
Rovers, yeah. We obviously we wish him all the best, but that deserves its own sort of separate thing than when we're focusing on Jack. But yeah, I do expect a back 4. I agree with you. I just wonder if Rue Waters has got himself the ideal manager, because like it or not, Bloomfield did not like Waters after that Sunderland debacle last season, and it weren't even that bad at Sunderland. I saw far worse Luton performances last season than that one. But he obviously gave the ball away for either the first or second goal that day and never played again last season, and he's only played sporadically this time around. He was involved in those training clips, so he is training. You would imagine, given that a manager's going to stick with those he knows originally, aren't they, to get some sort of traction in the ground. So Rue Waters might be our right back, which would then open up the door to Chris Makosso going back to centre back, which would then in turn presumably open up the door to Luton keeping some clean sheets again.
Exactly that. We want to see the players playing in their rightful positions. I guess that to some extent there's been occasions where that hasn't been possible, but there were other occasions when Bloomfield was playing players well out of position.
It's the last game in particular.
Exactly that. So we want to see that. I think there's a handful of players, and all the young ones really, you know who they are. So Walters, Nelson, Jake Richards.
Fanny,
indeed, yeah. I forget he's a really young lad. Joe Johnson when he comes back from injury. I can't imagine that they are not going to be really, really excited by it. Jake Richards, for instance, playing for Exeter, no disrespect, last season, and now he comes to Luton and he's going to be managed by one of the best midfield talents of the 21st century, isn't he? Who would have done far more in a playing sense. He probably still would be playing if he didn't have all those injury problems. So
might be playing for us if he was training with us 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, absolutely. In that training video thing, there was Zach Nelson being spoken to by Chris Powell, and obviously they don't put the sound on there. I wouldn't expect them to, but you could see that he was hanging on every word. And if you're learning off these people, you're only going to improve. And clearly there's something about Zach Nelson. We've always thought it. Rob thought it. He gave him his debut, or gave him a run. Matt spoke highly of him in most press conferences when you spoke about him. So they really do think highly of him. Of course, he's played for England age groups. You don't do that if there's nothing about you. And now he's getting coached by two, well, like you say, one of the best coaches that we've had, and someone in his position who plays his style, his football. It's ideal for a Zach Nelson, isn't it? You know, we thought Zach would have a big season anyway. He might just have elevated that a little bit more, and he really could become that player that we kind of hope that he is.
yeah, it's potential at the moment, isn't it? I mean, there's been flashes of it, and then the Burton game where he really performed well, and we thought very highly of him. Then he had that mistake against Plymouth in him, and he's kind of dropped off a little bit. So he needs probably an arm around him, and what better person to put an arm around him than someone like Jack Wilshere? But I still maintain that it's sort of, it could be his breakthrough season. It's not quite happened yet, but there's plenty more games ahead to be able to do that. And we've got a lot of young players. They brought the age down quite significantly, didn't they, in the transfer window, which is one of the bonuses. It does come with pitfalls that they're going to make mistakes. We've seen a lot of those. Hopefully he can shave that down a little bit, and we're making minimal mistakes. But the fact that you can mould those players into whatever you want is a big bonus, I think.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I just keep on saying it. I just am. Normally, we'd have a guess at the team selection. That's pointless, isn't it? We don't even know what formation the geezer's playing, let alone selecting the team. So what do you want to see from the Luton team on Saturday that maybe that we've not seen recently? What are you judging a Jack Wilshere Luton side on immediately? Forget patterns of play. Just what do you want to sit there and watch Luton do on Saturday?
Fierce intensity. I want people not holding back and challenging for everything. Second balls have to be won. That will get people kind of on side. Strong tackle here or there might do, but more confidence in their passing. Surely he can instill that somewhere along. And maybe it's not going to be this game, but just stop making as many mistakes. Unforced errors, they call it in rugby, don't they? There was so much of that in the last couple of games. So none of that. Look like they know where their teammates are supposed to be and try and play into those areas. And that's just for starters, really. Obviously, I want to see some goals. I want the strikers to be in positions and have the chances or the balls to be trying to score goals. Whereas we've really relied on set pieces. I mean, that can't die because that's where goals have come from for quite a significant amount of time. But those strikers aren't getting in the places to get goals. They're not getting the balls to get goals. Something along those lines would help me to understand where the team's going to be going.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, up and up. Let's be Luton. This guy knows what Luton is. He's played enough against us as a coach and seen enough of Luton to know it. And I just loved his comments about Kenilworth Road. And that's on us now, isn't it? You know, he wants to make the most of Kenilworth Road. Kenilworth Road's at its best when everyone in the stadium is doing their bit. And you know, whether you're a fan of the Wilshere appointment or whether you're sceptical of the Wilshere appointment, whatever it is, that park's at the turnstile on Saturday. Once you're inside that turnstile, everyone behind Wilshere, let's let him know exactly that we're right behind this guy. I've been in touch with the club, doing a little deal, Jimbo. I know you like a little deal. So before the game, they've got the marquee out, they've got the bar out on the Kenilworth forecourt. They are doing some really good things with that fan zone, let me just tell you. I really like it. When we were in the Premier League, we walked through quite a few of those, and you were always like, God, I'd love to have this at Kenilworth Road, but you didn't think it was possible because Kenilworth Road's so tiny.
The buses and trucks of
yeah,
TV
exactly. Where on earth can we do that? But to be fair to them, they've bumped all them off. They've got that marquee outside on the Kenilworth forecourt. They've got some good beers on the go. They put a big screen up that has the early game on, so you don't even need to worry about missing the early game. I think they've said the early game that they're going to show is Lincoln against Stevenage. So you've got Sonny Bradley and James Collins on the big screen. 25% off all drinks between 12 and 1:30. So anyone who gets there early, you get a quarter off your pint. And let's make for a really, really good atmosphere. Let's have, from minute one, let's have Jack Wilshere knowing that we're right behind him and give him the full Kenilworth Road experience.
Yeah, I really hope so. I've missed it. I can't recall it happening really this season. It's been a bit quiet. You could hear where I'm sat really in the press box. You can hear people having conversations with each other. So I want that noise to be back a little, not even a little bit. I just want it all. I'm very greedy on this. I want it all because when it is rocking, the hairs stand up on the back of your neck. So I hope that can come to the fore. That I'd quite like to know when we've talked about Wilshere in the last podcast, it wasn't a done deal. It was strongly rumoured, and we thought that. And I think that with a lot of the comments were like, "Well, he's untried, untested. I'm not sure about this." Some said that's a really bad decision because we wanted experience. I'd take all of those. I think they're all valid because we're not really sure where we are at the moment. What I'd quite like to know from people really is, now that we know he's installed and Chris Powell has come in, how does that make you feel in with those thoughts? Do you feel a bit more comfortable that he's got that experienced head to lean on in Chris Powell? And does that shape the way you feel about the appointment? It'd be a really interesting one to know from people. So put that in the comments because certainly for me, I think I was sort of a bit on the fence, wasn't I, in the last podcast, and having that assurance of that appointment, as well as speaking to them and seeing what they're about, has tipped me over a little bit more to the excited bracket. So I just want to be excited.
I thought I was going to need to stick jump leads on you to get some excitement out of you for this preview, but no, you're right. Just being in their company for 45 minutes or so, and it's clearly obvious that they've left a lasting impression on you. As I say, I've watched all of the bits. I've seen all the videos. Do you know what? I've wanted something to cling to. Even under Matt, I've wanted something to cling to, something to sort of convince me that I want to go and watch my football again. Because although I keep on going, that's purely because I've got nothing else to do. It's not necessarily that I've wanted to go, but now, you know, I've got it. And hopefully Saturday just sort of rubber stamps it, really. Do I expect us to come rocking out and winning, 5-3 like we did against them under Joe Kinnear? No, I don't. I wouldn't even be surprised necessarily if we don't win. I mean, certainly that history that I've told you about the last 8 managers or interims would suggest that it's a 2-week sort of thing before we really get going. But, I just want to be there. I want to be there with a good atmosphere. I want, and I'll help generate it. I just want to watch Luton on the front foot. I asked you earlier what you wanted to see. I want to see Luton going forward. I don't want to see Luton stopping all the time. If I wanted to watch football buffering, I'd go and watch one of them illegal streams that, doesn't keep on going. I want to see Luton on the front foot. I want to see him go at them. And if we concede a goal by going at them and get done on the counter-attack, well, so be it. Fair play, good luck to you. But I'm confident we've got enough players to go and get more at the other end. I want to see Shaden Morris look his full-back in the eye and say, no, you're not getting the ball off me today. I want to see strikers in the box when the chance comes. I've got the composure and the confidence to whack it in the bottom corner. I want to see Millie Alley of last season that goes past his man and belts it in from any kind of angle that does the rounds. I want to see that celebration, everything that we go to football for. And are we going to see it all on Saturday? And I'm not stupid enough to think that we are. But as long as we see signs of going towards that, I'm absolutely fine with it. I am. And let's see what we get. Score predictions, Jimbo. I've just highlighted the last 8. They've not won a game. Does it change?
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. This is the part where you go, well, what have you just said for the last podcast? And
you just talked us right up and you're not winning.
I'm optimistic of a better performance, something to really look forward to, hold on to, that can build on a platform. I think that it'll be a draw, though, because of those results. That history says something. He's picking them up from a very low ebb. Cambridge was that. I think, we went into that game. I think even that was even a bit of gloss over that game because it was shocking. So he's got that to do. He's been there since Monday. So he's had a week to do it. That's enough time to instill some good habits in those players. You mentioned about what you want to see. Another thing I want to see is the midfield playing on the half turn like he did, trying to go through the lines like he did, being brave to do that, and then that will link the back to the front. So if we can do that, I'm really positive. We've still got strikers that haven't scored a lot. Listen, if they come along and bag a hatful, then we're in the money here because we're rolling. But I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to play it relatively safe on this, but I think it's still going to be a good day. So I'm going to go for 1-1.
If we got strikers who are scoring, I'm going to be on here on Sunday saying we're going to win the league and everything else. I'm joking. A lot of those draws were 0-0s. Now, I suspect a lot of those, I've not gone through them, and I should shout out Tom Watts, actually, who was the one who sent me the stats, watches the podcast a lot. We had him on after the West Brom game last season, so I can't take any credit from it. And actually, if they're wrong, then you can blame him rather than me. A lot of them are 0-0. I suspect because they're 0-0s in the Matt Bloomfield variety that, Christ, we've been conceding an awful lot of goals. Let's shut up shop and not concede any more goals. I kind of get the impression Wilshere won't do that. Kind of get the impression he'll look at the other end of the pitch and get us scoring goals and then worry about the defence a little bit later, particularly when he gets some fullbacks back, for example. So I think we might break the mould here. And of course, it's not, beyond the realms of possibility that I pick a Luton win, but I'm going to pick a Luton win. I think we're going to start off the Wilshere campaign with a 2-1 win. Still not completely convinced we're going to keep that clean sheet. Do you know what? If we go a goal behind and win 2-1 in Rob Edwards style in his first home game, that would ding-dang do for me.
Well, especially if they do it in the fashion that they did it. I talk about that so often. I'll never get how much of a catalyst that was for Rob Edwards' tenure because of the late goals do funny things, wonderful things to you anyway. But that felt like a really big moment. And so it proved. So, that's where we want to get back to, isn't it? We're a long way from that, but I'm positive about this one.
Jack thinks we can get promoted. I think we can win 2-1 on Saturday. So that's my one. 2-1 for me, 1-1 for Jimbo. Get your score predictions in. The leaderboard is going to be on the Trust website by the time that this podcast goes live. So you'll find out exactly where it is that you are. And as always, 3 points for the correct score, 1 point for the result. And if you've got the correct score, then when we're back in the studio Sunday night, we will give you a shout out. I promised right at the start of the podcast a competition, and Jimbo, we're kind of quite excited about this, actually. It is competition time. Got something really special for you guys. We're giving away 3 copies of the brand new book, which was published today by Hatters fan, journalist and author Rob Hadgraft. It's titled Luton Town's Miracle, the fairy tale rise from non-league to the Premier League. Rob has penned a month-by-month chronicle of that remarkable decade-long journey from obscurity to football's top table. It's a must-read for any Luton fan. Jimbo, you've read some of it. It's a good read.
Well, if you're looking for returning to the good times, then that chronicles all of it, really, from the lowest point to the highest point of the Premier League. And he's written other books as well. I think it's his 5th Luton book, but the last one was the non-league years, so you might have read that anyway. And you've probably seen him around the grounds as well, because he's been going for 50 years, I think. He told me, so he's seen it all.
He has, yeah. I thought I'd seen enough. I've not been doing 50 years of it. I suppose we should tell you how you can be in with a chance of winning the book. You've got two ways to enter. If you're watching this on YouTube, just subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment with your answer to this question. It's not too difficult a question, I don't think, but you never know. Which Luton midfielder scored a long-range stunner against Cambridge in 2017 from a different postcode? I'll repeat that. Which Luton midfielder scored a long-range stunner against Cambridge in 2017? Was it really 8 years ago? From a different postcode. Where have them gone? If you're listening on audio, don't worry, you can still enter. Email me your answer to media, MEDIA, at lutontownsupporterstrust.com. Write in the subject line LTST podcast giveaway 1. Include your answer and your name. Entries close at 5 p.m. on Sunday, October the 19th, and we'll pick out the winner at random, and we'll announce it on the next episode, which will be the reaction to Jack Wilshere's first game in charge of the Hatters against Mansfield. If you're not successful, don't worry, because we'll do it all again with another Teasing Town question in that Mansfield reaction podcast, so you'll get 3 chances to win. You can also find all the competition details in the show notes. So good luck if you're entering for that. Well worth winning. Listen, anything that showcases anything to do with the Premier League, we're all aboard it, aren't we?
It's a lovely little omen now. I just think about it. I haven't really put the 2 and 2 together now. But if we're talking about a positive new era, and this has come out literally today as we've recorded it, so you can go and buy it in the shops if you don't win in the competition. But that documents 10 of the very best years, doesn't it? That was so thrilling and successful, which we want to get back to. And hopefully on the pitch, we can start to get back to that this week.
Indeed so. Yep. Get your answers in for that competition. Get your score predictions in as well. And we'll find out. We'll notify the winner in the review episode on Sunday night. As I said earlier in the podcast, let's get right behind Jack and the boys on Saturday. Club have put on a nice offer for us in their fan zone to take advantage of if you're not driving, of course. And let's create a good atmosphere. We heard James Shea, didn't we, speak about how they feel that they're playing against 13 men at the moment. Well, let's give them a 12th man to level that out with and do our bit in the terraces, give Jack that Kenilworth Road experience that I'm sure he really wants, and Chris Powell as well, not just Jack, the two of them together. And let's hope we can come away with 3 points. Thanks for watching or listening, however it is that you've consumed this podcast. We really appreciate it. I should just say we haven't forgotten about the Trust podcast that we were going to do. This Wilshere Powell combination deserved all of our attention this week, didn't it? And Jimbo's still writing stuff up from the press conference. I've done loads of media stuff. We'll bring that out to you next week. We're just kicking it slightly down the can, so that's to look forward to next week. So thanks to everyone who got in touch regarding that. We will have that out to you next week. Thanks again to all of the folks at Marsh House, the proud new home of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. We really appreciate your support, guys. They've got a fundraiser here for the studio on Saturday, October the 25th, between 2 and 10 p.m. called Don't Be SAD, an event to beat the winter blues with live music, uplifting activities, fundraising support, food, and all of that. So if you're around, if you haven't got a ticket to the Northampton game, we'd love it if you can come down and help them out. Also, I should say the Solid Under 21 hospitality event, the last few tickets are still available. Jump onto our website if you want to book those. That's Tuesday night, 7 p.m. against Brentford. And also our thanks go to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, as always. Until next time, which we hope will be a celebration of Wilshere ball, Powell ball, and 3 points. From Jimbo and myself, come on you Hatters, all in this one together on Saturday.